This all goes back to the thing I've been talking about the whole time subtly. Stop valuing other people's opinions. The reason he said not fully is he didn't go all the way because subconsciously there's a fear that it's not gonna work out. Will this make enough money to sustain my, most of the reason people don't go for their dream is because they don't think they'll make enough money to sustain their life. Either their family's too practical or they're insecure. There's too many variables. My big thing is this is why I want you to hang out, Andre, with a 90-year-old. You'll be more scared to not go for it after hanging out with people that literally, when I tell you, when you hang out with the 80 to 100-year-old set, all you see in their face is regret. You know, you'll see joy and happy, but if you look for what we're trying to learn from them, of like, what did you do that I can learn from? It's all regret, brother. You will be far more scared to wake up one day and say, why didn't I go for being a piano star? Why didn't I try to be a stand-up comic? You know, why didn't I move to Sweden? Whatever it is, be a cook, be a professional video game player, whatever it is, you will be fearful of that so much more than your sister or your uncle or your spouse or your best friend laughing at you when you stop doing what you're doing and you go for this thing. I'll give you a big one. One thing I talk a ton about that, boy, I can't find anyone talking about this, is if you are in debt, or if you're living a life where you're like kind of never getting over the hump, sell your home and go rent a smaller home. Sell your home and go live. The amount of 35-year-olds right now that should sell their home or stop paying for their apartment and move back in with their parents is high. They can reset, save some money, have some time with their parents, which I know is like, not everyone loves that, but a lot of people would love that. A lot of people do like their parents and would love that. But their pride won't let them do that because everybody will judge them. You sold your house and now you live with your parents, you're a loser. As if that person is living, this is the whole game. So, my man, the reason you're half pregnant is something is stopping you from doing it, and I promise you that something is judgment from others. And so, you already know what things you want to do. Gary, I can't find my passion. Yes, you can. Every one of you can tell me what you love most. Mine's the New York Jets, right? So what am I doing? I'm trying to build the biggest businesses in the world so I can buy the Jets and finally win a fucking Super Bowl. But everyone here knows what they like. They're scared to admit it. There's big ass dudes in here that love ballet. They're scared to say it. We all know. I will never believe anyone that says, I don't know. No, you're scared to admit. You're scared to go for it. And so that's what I'm trying to push for. The first one's really interesting. I have this framework that works, and don't forget, I have an agency. That means we get hired by companies and we're trying to tell them what to do. None of our clients do the full thing that I want them to do. They still think running television commercials on network TV is a better way for you to buy something, which is just insane to me. And I tell my team all the time because they're very frustrated because we're progressive. I'm like, look, everybody makes the same mistake in the question you're making. They're in the business of convincing. I'm not in the business of convincing. I'm in the business of conviction. I can't convince you up here in 45 minutes. We don't know each other like that. But boy, do I have conviction in everything that came out of my mouth. And for some of you, that might be enough at this moment. Literally today was the only day that some of the things I said are gonna penetrate. There are people who follow me for 10 years and will email me and say, I've heard you say the same thing for 10 years and today was the day. Which is what keeps me motivated, saying the same 13 things, 8,000 different ways on every different platform. And so you have to, when you go into your next meeting, don't try to convince them. Have conviction in what you believe. Humans will feel that, right? And you just gotta, right? It's just an everyday thing. It's the same thing of, I always think that working out is a great comp for life. Like most people just wanna do 8 push-ups and think like it'd be all good. You know, like they don't realize that it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. Like everybody here can be in better shape. Eat healthier and exercise. You know the blueprint, it's hard to do. Everyone's looking for the shortcut. So you just have to keep pushing. And then you have to go into accountability. If you're pushing every day respectfully for 3 years and it's not happening, and it's bothering you like that, well then quit. This is my big thing. Complaining is the worst. Complaining drives me batshit crazy, especially when you have options. You can't quit because you're getting paid $200,000 a year and your lifestyle, well guess what? Have the humility to get your lifestyle down. If you're so unhappy at work, which is where you spend the majority of your life, then return your Lexus and drive a fucking Dodge. If you're so unhappy, don't go on 2 vacations that are bougie, do a staycation. If you're so unhappy, stop buying $5 Starbucks coffee and make your 18-cent coffee at home. You are in control. So, conviction, conviction, conviction. Your boss is driving you crazy, it's never gonna happen, it's eating up your soul, leave. Because you can. 2 years from pension, 3 years from retirement, you still can leave. Or eat it, because that's your strategy and you want it, but shut your mouth. If you know why you're doing it, and you're just eating it for another 3 years, eat it and stop complaining, because you're driving us all down with you. Empathy is having the capacity and compassion to care about other people's feelings. Not caring about other people's opinions is based on being secure in your own skin and not valuing judgment. They're very, very easy to balance, though the question's absolutely right. It's all emotional frameworks. For me, it's the game of being selfless and being selfish. You know, for me, having compassion and empathy, like it's even the entire speaking style I have right now. Like to me, I sit here and I'm just literally in real time right now, what can I say that will bring value? What can I say that will bring value? What can I say that brings value? As far as, I've also cursed 4 times, sir. I know there's people in here that don't like that. I respect that. I'm actually empathetic to that. If you grew up in a household or were taught a certain way where that's a horrible thing, you're not gonna like that. I grew up in Jersey, so, you know, it's a little hard for me to contain it, but I'm empathetic to the judgment. On the flip side, I'm also aware that I'm okay with that judgment, because if that's what you took out of this talk, we've got to work on all the things we're talking about here to level up the consciousness. So I think it's very balanceable. I think that they're just both very hard. You know, this is 40 years of practice. One of the great things that happened to me, parents that have poor students, let me give you an insight that's left field, truly not being talked about. What allowed me to be who I am is that I got poor grades, and every teacher and every friend's parent told me I'd be a loser, but I knew I wasn't. I knew I wasn't because I made more money than everyone selling lemonade. I knew I wasn't because when it snowed, I got a shovel and rang every doorbell. I knew I wasn't because the world was telling me the truth, not the systems. And so I got practice. A lot of parents reinforce school. Yeah, this is bad, without realizing school has no impact on someone's truth in life. And so we need to think about those things. And I just got a lot of practice of tuning out the noise, because the noise was telling me one thing, but I was living another. I'll give you another one. The greatest thing I wish on everyone besides health is living the first 10 years of their life in a household that's extremely happy with very little money. That was mine. Because I was brought up in a way where I realized very quickly, oh, money has no impact on happiness. I grew up the happiest little boy on earth. We had nothing. I wish that on everybody, because you get conditioned, you understand. And so I think a lot about these things. It's practicing, it's emotional practice. Emotional practice. We talk about physical practice. We don't talk about emotional practice. So I think it comes down to practicing. Like truly having a bad day where people are throwing judgment at you, and just like knowing yourself enough to be like, I'm just gonna go golf because that's what helps me, or I'm gonna watch sports because that's what helps me, or I'm gonna listen to music. Like practicing. That's what I do. Every time I'm having a struggle, I push myself into something that gives me escapism from that struggle. I'm getting conditioned, and we need more emotional practice. Self-esteem, I think, is completely predicated on who you spend time with.
Okay.
I just don't understand why people don't realize that if they hang out with people that build them up, that's good. I think people need to limit. I think this is funny because we're kind of going thoughtful here. I just made pretend you asked me a question and you said, this just happened by the way, this is how the brain works. And you said, just give me one thing, only one. It's the last thing you can say on earth. I'm gonna kill you right now actually, but you get to say one last thing. It's funny where my brain went. I think the answer to it would be cut and limit people that are negative as much as you humanly can. That doesn't mean you never talk to your mother again, for example, or your dad or your brother, but if you have a pessimistic, negative, cynical father or mother, I don't think you should never talk to them again. But if you're being negatively affected by it and you can feel it right now as we're talking, back to self-awareness, maybe you don't need to talk to them twice a day. Maybe if your older brother is just Debbie Downer, maybe you don't need to text him 6 times a day where he's just texting like, did you see? Like maybe you could talk to him once a week. And so, self-esteem is an easy one. Self-awareness is gonna be hard, which is why I'm saving it for the back end of this question. Self-esteem is clear to me at this point in life, which is surround yourself with more positive people, surround yourself with more positive noise. I'll give you an example. In America, obviously, we had a very tumultuous political scene for the last decade, right?
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me how many people stopped watching the news, stopped looking for the content on social, and went back to just watching Netflix or listening to music or listening to podcasts from David or other people that were positive, how much it impacted their lives. Because I talk about this a lot, the amount of emails, DMs, and conversations I've had with people who've now begun to limit how much they consume around politics and world events, and have gone back to leisure, sports, positive podcasts, lightweight movies, and how much better their lives are is profound. And I think that's how you become someone who can build self-esteem. You need to understand that everything that comes into your body, like food, from a communication and energy standpoint, is affecting you. And if you start hanging out with people that want you to win, you will have more self-confidence. If someone's telling you you're beautiful versus telling you you're ugly, if someone's telling you you're awesome instead of you suck, you're a different person.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is much harder. The only thing I've ever seen that's worked is making people that know you the best feel so safe when you ask them for critical feedback. Like you literally tell them like, no, I know Johnny, I know you're my best friend, and I know you think I'm just joking when you're about to shit on me right now. You think I'm gonna flip and you're gonna blame me for putting you in that position, but I'm telling you the truth. I don't know if I'm a good artist or I don't know if I'm good at this job. Just tell me what you think. And then also doing that with 10 people because you know that people have different opinions. That's been one of the things I've thought about. Creating a safety net for people that know you best to actually give you candorous feedback, but not letting one opinion in that environment carry the day, getting that from 10 people. And then if all 10 of them say that you're a little lazy, and you don't see it, there's probably a good chance you're lazy.
Awesome. I might take a turn back into the marketing for the end. So right now, what are you seeing in terms of what platforms where we should pay our attention to in terms of creating content?
For Australia, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn are 3 that are completely underpriced, and you can get a lot more awareness for your bang for the buck of the content you make. Those 3.
Okay. And is that still a focus on organic or also paid ads or both?
Both, starting with organic, and when something over indexes, then put paid against it.
You also mentioned that you think what you're doing right now is minor leagues compared to what you will do at 50 to 60. So, do you want to expand that a bit for us?
You know, I think 50 to 60 is extremely young. You know, as I've watched, I do see more of a tail off from 70 to 80 than from 50 to 60. When you're 60 to 70, 62, 64, 60, I do see a bigger drop. I watch people very carefully. I feel like more people by percentage really change energy from 60 to 70 much more than from 40 to 50, 50 to 60. So, and by the way, I know unlimited people with unlimited energy at 70 to 80, but I literally think there's no fundamental difference between 50 to 60 than 40 to 50, like none. No, now, when I say these things, I hope everyone who's listening understands, of course for individual people, there's a million variables. There's some people that age crazy between 20 and 30, like things happen, but I have gotten so much stronger in my emotional and tactical business capabilities professionally in each decade. I mean, I can't believe how much more impact, how much more capable I am between 40 and 50 than I was between 30 and 40. And between 20 and 30, like I was a killer from 20 to 30, but that killer would have been knocked out in the first round by 30 to 40-year-old me, and 30 to 40-year-old me would have been knocked out in the third round by 40 to 50-year-old me. I just feel like 50 to 60-year-old me is gonna be a fucking juggernaut. I refute to the last breath I have that we're getting reach on television in 2023. We are getting reported reach, we are getting potential reach, and deep down I think everyone knows it. And by the way, digital's no better. Like programmatic banner ads, and by the way, news feeds too. When I get 47 million views, I'm like, I got 14 probably. But the difference is every time I hold out cluster and suffocate, I still do direct mail and television and outdoor for my family liquor store business and many other things. Every time I hold every activity to accountable business results, traditional media shits the bed and social media done right dominates. Right, that's the part that people haven't figured out of this conversation. There's so many people
And your accountable business results are what?
Sales.
It's just
Because I do media and creative together. I didn't trick you into separating it. Really fun to be in the agency world when you've got media and creative separated and they each blame each other within a holding company. Oh, that was funny, right? This industry needs a reality moment. Very honestly, I'll probably be out of it sooner than later. Like, I really don't give a shit. I just want to be historically correct. I could care less if any of you become clients or I really just don't care. I just want to be right because it feels better. We're not getting it in programmatic. And if we started to actually want accountability, we have to bring media and creative back under one house and hold people accountable to our business results at the end of the year. The separation of media and creative destroyed this industry. It made nobody accountable to nothing. And what this industry is built on is headlines and magazines and reports that are completely full of shit. This company was built on Datalogic's report that was the biggest bunch of bullshit of all time. But it allowed companies to start buying Facebook because that report was like, okay, we'll trust this. Everything was fucking ROAS at its ass, and it wasn't true. But the industry accepted it, and so it became the industry's Nielsen ratings for social. That's fine, because at least this was a better use of dollars, but we're just not doing the right things, No, television is not efficient reach. It's a waste of fucking money. I think about messaging a lot, but I think you know this since it's what you do. There's so much trepidation for brands to get in there because it's a private place, right? AI is gonna be interesting. When I tell you I'm desperate to get in there, man, if I could market in WhatsApp, I would do it every hour on the day because the attention is insane, right? The text, I don't know if you know the startup community, which is a text platform. I have 200,000-300,000 people that have given me their cell phone number that I text on community. I get like 94% conversion rates on certain things when I do the creative right. I'm OG for you youngsters in here. I used to do email marketing in 1996. How many people here actually have been close to email marketing in their careers? Just raise your hands. Nice, get ready. 1997, 100,000 people on my dad's wine newsletter that I amassed because I crushed, 92% open rates. That's impossible now. That's what can happen in text when we find a way to get in there. But I'm too empathetic that consumers, in 1996, the reason I had those open rates were people were just like so happy about everything, right? Like email hadn't been ruined yet, right? You know, now consumers are cynical, private. I mean, I don't have to sit, you know, we've been through it in this company, I've been through it in this industry, we've all been through it. So people are hesitant to let us in there. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this. I think WhatsApp should take a page out of Twitter desktop pre-mobile ad product, which was, if you remember Twitter's ad product in like 2008 or 9, I know there's some youngsters in here, but let me give you some history lesson. It was mainly a lot of desktop consumption, and on the right side, they had 10 trending topics, and then above that, they added an ad product called sponsored trend or tweet, right? And so you could buy that spot, and it was a monster. I was back to when everyone's like, what is social media? I'm like, I was buying that inventory, and it was expensive, but the attention was so absurd. I think a very simplistic, very lightweight WhatsApp product that had a little tiny banner at the top with one, you know, where the copy from the advertiser was all linkable, and you'd have to just buy the whole network. Later, you'll figure out how to make it all contextual. I think could be interesting, similar to the TikTok ad when you open the app and it takes over the whole thing. The world is struggling back to actual reach, which is why Super Bowl is, you know, it's funny. Meanwhile, in complete opposite, the Super Bowl ad's the best ad in advertising. Every single company in America should clamor to spend $7 million for 30 seconds in Super Bowl because you have 100 million human beings actually watching with intent for 30 seconds. And even the best day on Meta and the best day on Instagram and Facebook and Snap and TikTok and all of them combined, I could never get 100 million people consuming 30 full seconds for less than $7 million, and I'm as good at buying modern comms planning and spending media across the board as they come and our organization is, and you could never do it. So that's the best ad. I think WhatsApp, putting that at the top at scale globally, becomes one of the most interesting ad products in the world. If you think of global brands, you think about like the World Cup, gets incredible amount of time. Like if I woke up tomorrow and Peter Chun or Mar or somebody from my team was like, did you see what WhatsApp did? And I clicked the TechCrunch article and there's a new ad that's a tiny thin banner at the top of your messaging on WhatsApp, and it's on everybody's WhatsApp around the globe. I am calling Procter, Nike, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, like in 2 seconds saying we need to understand this now. Because in that first little window of the first 6 months to 12 months, first 3 months to 6 months, everyone's gonna pay attention to it. And then it becomes a creative variable game. If you're a brand that knows how to write the copy that's compelling for someone to click, it will work. If you're not, you'll waste the money. Super Bowl is the best ad buy, but all the creative, 80% of it is a showcase for the ad agency, not an objective to drive the business, and thus it becomes a waste of money because they spent $3 million on an actor, they spent $2 million on some fancy director, they paid some production company to make it, the creative agency got incremental fee to sit in a room and pontificate, and so I'm really struggling with creative agencies, as you can tell. Because, and by the way, let me tell you on the record, I have a curveball for you. Do you know why I'm struggling with creative agencies? Because I interview so many senior creatives and they're so damn unhappy, it breaks my heart. This is not making fun of, this is deep compassion and empathy to what's happening. The most creative people in our industry are getting their souls sucked dry by sitting around for 9 months debating with each other to put out a piece of vanilla video on a television set that nobody on earth is watching. That's a shitty existence if you're creative. I've never been more optimistic. For the first time ever, smart parents aren't forcing their kids to go to Stanford. So I understand what you're saying. I actually think we're in an inflection point. We are truly in the pre-dawn of parents around the world finally not putting university on a mandatory pedestal, which is creating a level of curiosity and a level of thoughtfulness and a level of self-awareness and a level of actually auditing children that is going to lead to incredible happiness for children and much better education, not how education is sold. We also are demonizing AI at education levels at scale so hard and so fast that there's going to be an overcorrection and understanding that what AI is actually doing is forcing our children to critically think and input instead of memorize and figure out the system. I think that higher education is a new phenomenon as a business. I think education is the most important thing in the world. I think the greatest thing that Meta ever did was accelerate and be one of the companies at the forefront of the world talking to each other, which has led to profound education. I'm aware that currently we are focused on all the bad things that humans are about, and we're blaming the platforms for human behavior. That's a different thing. On the flip side, we have never lived in a world of better education. When you start a sentence with big fan, you and I would have never known each other 50 years ago. We have connected humans. There's so much beauty to this. You know how many people are married happily forever because of these technologies? You know how many people here are more educated than they could have ever been because of these technologies? I've never been more bullish on education because I think we're about to tear down over the next 50 years the way education has been packaged, weaponized, sold, and have extracted an enormous amount of happiness out of society. The reason most people struggle with patience is probably another massive thing that's going on in this room professionally and personally. Most people want to accomplish things financially or status-wise to impress other people, and that is a huge vulnerability. The keeping up with the Joneses or how people judge them based on their money, their accolades, their status is destroying people. This goes back to 20 minutes ago of trying to impress people you don't even like. Right? So the lack of patience has been one of the most obvious things. Unlike Candor, at 20, I already understood it. You know, I felt that I was gonna be a great businessman, but I spent 22 to 34 working for my dad's liquor store, building his business for him. I built his business from a $4 million to a $70 million business, and I never got paid much money at all because it was a family business. And my dad's like, yo, what do you complain about? It's a family business. When I die, you'll get it. I'm like, Dad, you have great DNA. You're gonna die at 94. I'm gonna be 72. I'm trying to do work out here, trying to make something happen. And so, you know, but it was my patience and my deep ambition to do something great for my parents who did great for me that allowed me to know that even though at 34, I barely had any money based especially on my crazy ambitions, that I would be able to get to it. Because life is long, because you can make things happen. You can build brick by brick. And so patience is hurting a lot of people here in a million different ways. People are shortcutting to decisions, making decisions on short-term values versus long-term realities. And I highly, highly recommend a deeper falling in love with patience. How are we doing Q&A? We've got runners? Cool. I'm gonna speak for a little bit more, but I really want people to start thinking about the question they want to ask. And by the way, I know some of you may know me and thrilled to talk about marketing. I think about that quite a bit, you know, whatever that may be. And I think about marketing not just like let's sell sneakers and soda. Marketing is how the whole world works. Communication's how the whole world works. You may want to raise money to cure a disease because your family's been affected by it. You may want somebody to be the mayor of your town. You may want a lot of things happen. I don't think anyone here is confused that marketing and communication dictates the temperament and the decisions of human beings. And so, just two little things on that. First and foremost, if you want something to happen in the world and you're gonna be the one that is trying to make it happen, and you may have lots of opinions about social media, because everyone does now, it's still the platform to make what you in this room want to happen, because it's free. You're more than welcome to buy television ads. Go pop out $50,000 a spot, knock yourself out. You're more than welcome to run an ad in the newspaper. The problem is that 80-year-old that's your friend is the only one reading it. You're more than welcome to have an opinion on TikTok, China this, and Mark Zuckerberg that. You can have any opinion you want. But let me just say one thing in this room. If you're gonna be a marketer, you need to be agnostic. You need to be unemotional. You need to care about where the attention of society is, period, end of story. The biggest reason people are not good at marketing or making something happen is they have an ideology of what it should be. One of the biggest things in this environment that people struggle with is candor. Some of you, like me, don't want to deliver candor because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. You're actually non-confrontational. You really love the person that you're about to talk to that stinks at something and you don't want to say it. And I used to dance like a ballerina. I would dance, I had something to say to somebody, it would take 3 minutes and I was in there for 45 minutes like I'm Fred Astaire. I would dance, and never get to it. And what did that do for me over 20 years? It led to me having very awkward firings and all sorts of, when I think back to any person, the tens of thousands of people that have worked for me for the last 30 years, the only ones, the 100 people that most don't like me, all same issue. I wasn't able to be candorous with them, and I manipulated it in my own mind of they should be happy that they're still here because they stink. And how does Johnny not see that he stinks? I shouldn't have to tell him. I should have told him. Because I didn't do any favors. The problem was my whole childhood and my whole early upbringing, anybody that was in my life that was good at candor was horrible at delivering it. The candor was delivered in venom. And I wasn't able to take the vehicle that the candor was being delivered in separate from the value of candor. So what I did was what I always do. In the world I market and I brand. When I realized how big of a vulnerability this was for me, I branded myself. I created a word and a structure for me to help me. And that's how I came up with kind candor. When I tell you, for a lot of leaders in here, for the organizations in the back, for the organizations in the front, and for everybody in between, including again, the thing I believe, which is a lot of these things are impacting your relationships in your real life, not just your professional life. I highly recommend people, especially the ones that are DNA-wise similar to me, who struggle with telling people the truth when they're disappointed in them. You must find a way to get down the path of candor. The lack of candor has led to every negative thing that's ever happened in my life, singly. That's how big of a deal this is. So I impose, I pray, I push all of you to realize how big of a deal this is. But here's why candor scares me. There are many people in this room as managers who use candor as an excuse to be nasty, to razz, to manipulate. And so it's a very, very, very dangerous thing. I'm just being candorous with you to help you. You know, Gary, I'm just keeping it real. I'm like, yeah, real negative, real manipulative. Candor is a tricky one, but if you can understand the kindness part, all of you know this. You've either been on the receiving end or you've been the deliverer of a message and you know when it didn't land. You're like, damn, that did not go the way I wanted to. It is always because of your relationship with candor. No question, after watching this be the framework of my companies, getting the feedback after the book's been out and just kind of watching, I really believe in this concept of kind candor. I really believe if you understand it, if you can really deliver the challenging news with a little honey instead of vinegar, if you've really got the intent for that person to win, I believe that kind candor really, really matters. And I highly recommend you start working on your relationship with candor. When I think about competitiveness, 10 out of 10. Accountability, 9 out of 10, right? Patience, this is a big one. I crush patience. Everybody wants everything now, which is why they don't get what they want. Patience, 10 out of 10. Kind candor, today, in front of you, 4 out of 10. Literally was a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 3 years ago. 4 out of 10. Let me just tell you how big of a deal this is. From 1 out of 10 to 4 out of 10, it's doubled my business. It's made the closest relationships that I have, my sister, my family, 3x better. I just know that candor is a big one. I know that people really struggle with it because it's a hardcore DNA trait. And for the managers in here and leaders in here, it's a tricky one because almost everybody is either too red or too blue with it when candor needs to be purple. And boy, do we love to judge once we become a leader. back to the over 40-year-old crowd versus some of the people under 25. We love to judge Gen Z. I just want to remind all the people, this is my favorite thing going on, sidetrack real quick, I'll just go over here for a second. My number one favorite conversation in the world right now is boomers all frustrated and angry at Gen Z when they're the ones who created them. I had somebody complaining hard the other day about his son. I'm like, maybe if you didn't give him an 8th place trophy, he wouldn't be entitled. Yeah. I really hate 8th place trophies. I don't even like the silver and bronze medal. I think you should leave that shit when they give it to you right on the desk. But that's another story for another day.